This time, I'll list my heart. This time, I will be smart. You can never figure out what the Ramones are saying in their songs, even when their songs, like "I Want to Be Sedated" or "Rock and Roll
They're
High
before
School."
my time.
But you listen. It's funny if you were listening to them now, you're like, "Oh, I know what he's saying," and then you read the lyrics, you're like, "Fuck, I was way off."
But it's
Was
like
the Ramones in were the Ramones in Peacemaker, Rob?
kind of that
They were
style
not,
of
but I can
music.
tell that Peacemaker would like the Ramones.
I fast forwarded through the opening credits and I watched it on the third episode, but
Okay,
I watched it on the first one and then never again.
Can I on that note, can I ask you, are you mad at the intro showing you characters before they're even on the show?
Nope.
oh well, because I skipped it in the first two episodes, I didn't care, and then I watched it and I was like, oh yeah, them. It's weird that they're in the, but like, no, because somebody said, oh, what I like about Peacemaker is that it realizes it's a TV show and not a 3-hour movie. And then I proceeded to watch it and it behaves like a 3-hour movie, which made me laugh. But no, I wasn't annoyed because opening credits all around suck. I can't think of a show that does them right now.
Today we're talking about Peacemakers episode 1 to 3 that is currently airing on HBO.
And Will's stripping.
And Will is
think
The
of
show
it?
that he's as built is fucking John Cena.
Yeah. What'd you think of it, Phil?
The first episode I was ho hum on, going into 2 and 3 when stuff starts finally going down. I'm getting into it.
And you, Rob?
I've been enjoying it for one very obvious reason that we'll talk about shortly, being
boobs.
John Cena's penis.
Oh.
But I made so my boys watched Suicide Squad, if you thought it was great. I made the mistake of sitting and watching the first episode with the boys. So my 12-year-old and 9-year-old see John Cena railing.
I thought you would have known better. I mean, it wasn't all
I
right.
didn't expect that,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh shit. So I was like, yeah, boys, forget that part happened. Thankfully, their mother wasn't there. She would have murdered me.
I have
but
to
yeah,
say,
sorry, what did you think of it?
for the first episode, it was like I was watching it with my dad, and it's only like 45 minutes or around there, 30 to 45 minutes. And around like the 25-minute mark, I'm like, okay, this show is on life support. You can tell that like the writing is creaky. Like me and you, Rob, had this discussion earlier this week on the chat about like how 40-year-olds men should stick to writing like the shows that we had in the 90s that were good, where they weren't trying to be political or woke or something, and then they should leave the progressive stuff to like the 20-year-olds and stuff like that. So there's a lot of language on here, coded language, where they'll mention something, or like sometimes they'll get it right and you can tell that they had work on it, but it's like, oh, please no, don't talk about this kind of thing. I was like cringing. And then for me, in the dying minutes of the episode, it all turned around when they fight, when there's the fight, and I'm like, oh, this is a show now. Like something's actually going on. There's something that has stakes. So it was like I was this close to like just watching the first episode and seeing what you guys thought. I was glad I stuck it out. You always give it the first full episode, and I'm glad that it at least, and then it kept the momentum going.
So far, the only thing I really don't like about the show is the actual butterflies being butterflies. But the butterflies being butterflies is
that goes with the whole starfish thing.
It's absolutely James Gunn, and skipping right to the end of why I like this show. This show is a James Gunn TV show. If you've watched Super, if you've watched Slither, if all the stuff he made before he started working with Marvel. James Gunn is a goofy fucking guy, and the last show that we just watched really reminds me of Super, which is a fucking possibly maybe my favorite movie of his. He is a goofy.
What show was
guy.
that? Oh, the last episode.
The last episode. Mainly because of a lot of the there's nothing to do right now. Let's just talk. Where they start talking about.
Sorry, I got to get before we forget them letting the butterfly just fly away.
That's what I mean. I was like, this is stupid. But that feels very. See, there were some things, at least for me, some things.
But they
like
were
that
in
I'm
shock and awe.
Well, who
no, that feels like, hey, you know what? Our story needs to go a bit farther, so let's let that happen. I will say the one thing I did like, and this was, I wouldn't call it woke, because woke is it. I feel a little bit of my life go away every time I use the term woke because it makes me want to puke.
I'm getting used to it.
And that for me is the saddest part, that we're all getting used to the idea of using this terminology woke because it makes me want to throw up.
It's not
just
like
vocabulary, whatever.
I did like the idea of 2 plus-sized black lesbian women not being, we can kiss and we can make out and let's talk about being in bed. Let's talk about because we're lesbians.
Between them though was cringe for me. I'm like, I don't want.
I didn't think so.
I wouldn't want to see it for a couple. Oh, good for you.
Yeah, but it was. You know what? It wasn't. It wasn't 2 women that need to fucking like go down on each other to prove that they're lesbians. Like that you see in a lot of fucking shows.
Except for the picture later on.
But you know, it's funny. But it also wasn't. They weren't defined by the. At least for me, they weren't defined by the relationship, which is what you see with a lot of characters.
And it's serving a point to the plot of like, I talked before about Boba Fett, about characters in her lives. It shows, oh yeah, this character has a life before this show starts, and then the reveal about her being Amanda Waller's daughter, the reason that she's on.
And
so like
the girlfriend's going to be a butterfly, obviously.
The fact that it serves you think so?
Or she's going to be like a secret agent that's going to fuck her over. Yeah. That comes pretty obviously. That or they're gonna go full James Gunn, like the dog's a fucking butterfly. You know what I mean? That they always dress up.
Oh, that would be cool.
That's my bet. The dogs.
Yeah. But one thing I will say to be a lot. So I enjoyed the show. Not loved it, not at all, but certainly enjoyed it. Enjoyed the dialogue.
The racism is too on the nose for me. Like it's not racism done well. I find that the show has a really hard time. Weirdly, it's like James Gunn being like, well, I don't want to be too racist. No. And then him trying to be progressive and he doesn't fit in that well either.
He could have just been an asshole dad.
That's how that really. It's now, I fucking love Robert Patrick. Robert Patrick is awesome. He's so much fun to watch. But yeah, the racist stuff, feels a bit on the nose.
I think it
like
serves
we get
a
it, dude.
point.
You're the bad guy.
I think it serves a point to his character in the comic book, but you could write around that.
But it's like, to me, I felt like, oh, is somebody trying to do Alan Moore without being Alan Moore again? Of like, I don't feel that at times, like, and I hate to use this word again, but it's like Peacemaker is a bit more woke than he should be at times. And then other times I'm just kind of like there are a few inspired bits, like the selfie photo is so on brand James Gunn, that was funny, and it's like surprising and also relatable of like you're worried about somebody swiping through your photos or something and something comes up that shouldn't. But like, yeah, to me it was weird where it's like, if he's going to be on our side, he should be like old-fashioned values, conservative, like let everybody do what they want in their own home kind of thing. And then I don't know, it's just when he talks about recognizing being a white man, I was like, this is the show. Like it was like that. We're talking with the cleaning guy as well, who will definitely figure into it because he's like a known actor. It's kind of like, oh, okay, this is like, I get what they're saying, but can we please not move on if you're not going to be funny? I don't know. What do you think of it all, Phil? Like, do you pick up politically that kind of thing?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like them, I don't know. Like, I'll say this: I like Lachlan Monroe, and I like his partner, the female Asian cop.
Harcourt, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the scene where Robert Patrick says, "Oh, I'd talk to you, not to you," and it's like that's a very specific thing for like people I know that are like that racist, and I do know people that are. He'd make an offhand comment rather than like be so pointed about his racism, because he doesn't need to hide it, but he also doesn't need to be. He's not going to go out of his way to piss somebody off he doesn't like. He's just going to be himself. So
yeah, I feel like that was part of the character. He would go out of his way.
He's not going to go to jail for that.
Off. No, for me, the one biggest thing about the whole show that I had my eye on from minute one was, okay, Phil, I'm sure you won't like this, but the Snyder universe is a failure. It's a box office failure. It's a failure for Warner Brothers. It's a complete failure for DCEU.
Minus Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
I would
Wonder
call Wonder
Woman,
Woman
the
and
second
Aquaman
one
part of the
was bad.
Snyderverse. Personally, I'd call them their own offshoots,
Sure.
but I wouldn't call them part of this ludicrously terrible Snyderverse that I don't understand how in the world anybody enjoys. But aside from that, this goes out of its way to be anti-Snyderverse, which I fucking loved. Because as we all know, I hate Zack Snyder. He's a very untalented filmmaker. He apes off better filmmakers, which is fine. That's what a lot of filmmakers do. But I did love that it tries everything it can to be upbeat from its goofy fucking opening. That's where the only reason I watched the opening, I'm like, can you imagine Zack Snyder even being able to understand something that upbeat? Because he can't.
No.
None of his movies have ever had an upbeat quality ever in the history of his movies. Have they ever had an upbeat part to them? So I can imagine Zack Snyder watching this scene going like, who's getting killed? Why is there so much light? God, this hurts my eyes. Well, who's gonna be betrayed someone? Which girl's gonna get raped? Like I'm waiting.
This is why I want to see Suicide Squad versus the Justice League in a movie.
But that's what I loved about it. It's goofy. It's fucking silly. It's serious when it needs to be serious, and it gets those parts right. But for the most part, it's like there's an eagle called Eagly. He fucking blows this person to smithereens with a sonic fucking boom, and it's a joke. Like the TV show knows when to be serious and when to be silly. James Gunn is very good at that. He's very good at balancing silly and serious. And from minute one, when they start being all anti-Snyderverse, loved it. The only time you saw the Snyderverse creep in is when he's looking at, and I wrote it down, but he's looking at some sort of dossier and you see the Wayne Industries logo on it. That was the only time you see the Snyderverse creep in, even for a little tiny second. And then it's like, oh, forgotten about, you know what I mean? Like, oh, get that the fuck out of here.
Is the DC universe, Phil, do you think tied to like any one creative at the moment? Because I feel like James Gunn, probably because he's coming off the two, because it's like this feels more tonally in line with Shazam and a bit like Aquaman is trying to be. And then that's weirdly
I wouldn't say Aquaman, but
James Wan and his protege David Sandberg, who was directing Shazam. Like it kind of feels a mix between there and James Gunn styles, but it's like, is there like an overall, you think going forward there'll be all more of this tone and it will find itself, or do you think? Or
from what I understand,
the Flash will screw that all up and they'll just reboot it anyway.
The Flash might screw that all up for sure.
But if they reboot it, it would be fine. Like if they go through with their plan and reboot the universe that way, and then just keep the parts that they already like and ignore it, that'd be fine.
I was talking to my wife about that, and I was saying that it would be kind of smart but hard to do where you go, okay, we're going to keep this part, but we're not going to keep this part. So new Batman comes in. Is Ben Affleck confirmed as passing the torch in this movie?
Yeah, like the Flash is gonna be his last performance as his version of Batman, and it's just
but I mean,
probably a cameo.
Is he going to be in the new Batman?
No, that's Robert Pattinson.
No, it's not. It's like a full-on reboot.
Yeah, it's like Joker, where it's just its own thing.
Yeah,
who cares? I honestly think that's what they're going to do going forward.
That's exactly the same thing I think. DC is going to go on these one-off shoot movies, and then once they finally get enough of those under their belt, then they might bring them all together. Which is what they should have fucking done from the goddamn start.
I heard a thing that Affleck was supposed to also be in the new Batman as like passing the torch off to the new Batman, and it's like, oh, that kind of could make sense in like comic bookishness, but that wouldn't make sense in canon, because then you'd have to go back and say, well, the new Aquaman it has to be passed the torch from the old Aquaman, and it just doesn't work if you're passing the torch over and over again.
I read the
unless you're Marvel
with Ben Affleck, and he was just kind of like, Justice League happened and it was a long shoot, and then Zack Snyder
didn't like it,
stopped, and then they had to come back, and Joss Whedon, who's a lot more tighter on how people read his lines, made people do, and it was like 40 more days of shooting, so it was just grueling, exhausting, long, and he was away from his family, and he's also like 45 now. And he said about the Batman, like, if I had I hate that it's like, if I were 32, I would have absolutely loved doing this and the challenge of writing and directing. But it's just, I don't need this anymore. And it's not very fun to me. So I'm not going to spend all this time working on writing something and directing something that I hate when I want to go over and, do the tender bar and the last duel. And
that sounds like a what's the word, a pass off. Like I got fired from doing this. Yes, I got fired for, like, I got not chosen to continue to do this.
He kind of
so I'm gonna make an excuse.
So my original thought was that he was going to write and direct it, and then the studio just rejected it, and then they hired a new director to help him out, and then the new director recasted someone else. But it was pretty much, they were willing, because he has pretty much done most of his movies with Warner Brothers. It's like, it was pretty much his call, and it was probably even his call. He's like, bring in somebody else, I don't want to do this anymore, kind of thing. And then they said okay. And then, because it's Batman, they have multiple competing ideas. It's like Paramount with Star Trek, where they have 4 different ideas going at once. They were like, okay, we'll just get a new director, do this thing, and it's falling apart anyways. So
that's when you get Kevin Smith and you piss off Roth.
Yeah.
No, Zack Snyder would piss me off more than Kevin Smith. So at least Kevin Smith knows that he's not very good. Zack Snyder likes to pretend that he's fucking great.
But Kevin Smith's movies all look like shit. Visually,
the biggest problem with Kevin Smith movies is he thinks he's an amazing writer when he is not an amazing writer.
What an impressive career, though, for somebody who's like, he has his own point of view, which is the hardest thing for a writer to do. But yeah, it's impressive that he's somehow maintained a career. I think being brought up with the internet really helped.
I really like Kevin Smith, but and sometimes he accepts the fact that he's a sellout and he's not a very good writer. And sometimes he likes to pretend that, oh yeah, I'm the guy that made Clerks, and keep on writing that. I loved Clerks, loved Chasing Amy, loved Mallrats, really enjoyed Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And I like how he's just rebooting his own movies over again. So he knows that, hey, this is all that people really like me for. But he's not as good as he thinks he is, and sometimes he sometimes he channels that, sometimes he doesn't.
So bringing it back to Peacemaker. Anyway, my question is, how many episodes is it 6?
8.
I thought it was.
Oh, it is 8. Okay, so everything's going 8 these days, generally. Where do you see this show going? What's your predictions?
I kind of have no idea. And with James Gunn, you kind of don't always. And I kind of don't care. But after these 3 episodes, I'm kind of like, okay, I'll just follow it wherever it goes. I was ready to throw in the towel, but it's like, it's watchable enough. The episodes are short. There's been a lot of action, and he's writing every episode, directing most of them. So I'm kind of like, Suicide Squad originally was one of my favorite at the beginning of the year. What used to be in the top 10, now it's not, because I've seen enough good movies, and we'll get to that next segment. But I mean, I don't know how it's going to go. They'll probably confront Project Butterfly. The source of that, it'll be a new character who's with a storied history at DC.
Butterfly Girl.
Amanda Waller's daughter will have to choose between Amanda and that. I wouldn't be surprised if this was even an exit for Viola Davis. And yeah, Peacemaker it's in a tough spot because he's still a bad guy. So I don't know how they're going to do with that. But what do you think, Phil?
I think this is his turning good. So I don't think he's going to keep being a bad guy. But as for the show itself, I think we are going to get a main antagonist. It's going to be a bigger supervillain than just the butterflies. I think it'll be like Butterfly Girl or something like that, like something dumb.
Girl.
But like, we got a ship, and like, do you think that's a ship for the butterflies, or do you think that's a character? Like, it's something to be revealed.
A ship?
Yeah, remember the little ship that he opens up when they're having the threesome at the end of the last episode?
Oh yeah. I was gonna ask about that. That'll be as it usually is, a map to
So
a secret place or some weapon
no, it opens
and
up.
already knew about.
It opens up into a ship.
Yeah.
It's a ship.
Okay, but I think it will still be a port key of some sort, and then
No, it's a ship.
you like
It's a spaceship.
Oh right, yeah, but it was only as big as its lap. So
Yeah,
I know
that's
that's
what
the
idea
point.
is. It's for butterflies.
That's why he makes jokes that he has to face off against some little person, not the Taekwondo person, but the
like the
he's
doll man,
making
the
jokes
doll
about
man,
that.
the doll
Doll
man. That's what
man.
they call him. Yeah.
I think that it will basically be,
There was
let's
a
say,
word
then
for it.
a butterfly like net, and then they'll have to go out and catch butterflies literally.
Perfect.
And then once they do that, they'll figure out the true purpose of the device, which will be something that Amanda Waller knew all along. And we'll kind of go through that again, and that's how the show will go. And then at some point along the way, the dad will get a face off with. But yeah,
Rob, what do you think?
I think you guys have you're too indoctrinated by the Marvel formula. And I say that I think Suicide Squad surprised Warner Brothers with how successful it was.
Mm-hmm.
They knew
it was lost an incredible amount of money,
but it turned a lot of people around away from this absolutely abysmal Snyderverse. And it turned a lot of people onto DC as being something fun. Shazam went way too under the radar. It should have been bigger because it's a stupid little fun movie.
but that's getting a sequel and spin-off with Black Adam.
It is, but it wasn't as big as it could have been. Then they were like, okay, dude, Wonder Woman 2 needs to be fucking big. I mean, blow the marketing machine.
Garbage.
And then it's an absolute dog shit movie. And so I think they had a lot of faith in James Gunn to make to right the ship from Zack
He's
Snyder's.
like an incredibly interesting position to me because, as I said, like the Suicide Squad, I think was actually probably my favorite of the DCEU movies. I don't like too many of them. And they did the smart, unique kind of thing that they should be doing now, where they always talk about, oh, and this character is going to have his own spin-off series, but he's such a quantitative writer that he wrote the series himself, and that it didn't matter how the Suicide Squad did because he already had this show going forward and planting seeds. He shoots
that's where I think this is going to be different, and where Warner Brothers wants it to be different than the Marvel formula. It's not proven, but the only thing Warner Brothers has proven is that putting all of their eggs in one basket massively failed. So, and what's one thing that Warner Brothers is really good at? Hey, we made a huge mistake that lost us a bunch of money. Let's do that exact same mistake again. So what they've done is they've said, oh shit, James Gunn righted the ship. Let him do whatever he wants. So I feel like James Gunn is writing this.
He's the Favreau of DC.
I think so, but I think that this TV show is not going to lead to anything. I think there might be callbacks to it in later movies, but I don't think this is setting anything up. I think this is a one and done show. And it's more to prove Gunn can continue these characters, can write, still bring in money for them, and for Warner Brothers to prove that, all right, not everything needs to be intermingled like Marvel. We want to get away from that Marvel formula. And that's why what you were saying, they all kind of, or even Phil was saying it too, they're all kind of one-off movies. Joker, Batman, they're all these one-off fucking movies. That I think is going to be the Warner Brothers DCEU formula until they've built enough ground that they can make their Justice League movie.
So starting of Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. Where Marvel was in 2008 with Iron Man. That's what they're doing with this show. So no, I think it's a one and done.
All right, wrap it up, guys.
I wanted to say one more thing about like his interesting position is that like it was like a financial film theatrical flop, but for HBO Max it might have been a win for like the amount of people that watch it. And then this TV series, Warner's said they're changing how they look at it because of the pandemic, advancing what they already had in terms of looking at, oh, well, if we have a brand that has engagement, the metrics are different of like the financial dollars doesn't mean as much to us anymore because everything is changing. So I wondered if maybe you can somehow strike this into a win, but that's all.
This show is just the experiment for DC to do what Marvel and his Star Wars are doing. So.
And they do it better because it's a better TV show than this.
Star Wars.
Only by a bit.
I love Loki. Shut up.
Oh, Loki's bad.
All right.
Hawkeye's worse. Loki's bad.
So yeah, please comment, and I'm begging you, please comment. Actually, there has been comments on our YouTube thing. I actually have deleted 2 by accident.
God damn you, Phil.
So those people, if you notice your comments have been deleted, I apologize. It was actually a glitch from YouTube. It wasn't actually my fault.
They probably said
loading or something,
Phil
and I was clicking.
And he was like,
but that's it. Well, that's it for me. I gotta go get hot chocolate before we start the next.
Oh fuck, dude! I want a hot chocolate. All right, I'm going to
get our hot chocolate. Too. Go deliver. Come on.
All right, I will. Watch.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yay.